Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press. I have a really fascinating and interesting video for you today because what I want to do is to see if the $150,000 Lexus LX 600 is truly better built than the $65,000 Toyota 4Runner. They're both built in Japan, but in two different factories. This is built in Yoshiwara factory in Japan. This one is built in the legendary Tahara factory. This is more of a specialized factory. This is a little bit more of a higher volume mass production type factory. But is there really difference in the manufacturing quality between the two models when you pay almost double the price for this? Let's get into it and find out. Welcome back. So I have the comparison of the two Japan-made SUVs, both body on the frame. This is of course the older model. This is the Toyota 4Runner, built in Tahara factory in Japan, in Aichi Prefecture. This one is also built in Aichi Prefecture, but it's built in Yoshiwara factory, which is more of a specialized factory. So quite different in terms of the location of the manufacturing. But do you actually get better quality in that one than this one? Well, let's do a quick comparison. So I'm using my normal gauge here to look at the panel gaps between the front hood and the front fender. And on this 4Runner, it's almost exactly 4 millimeters. And in terms of alignment, it's almost perfect. There's just a little bit of a difference in the height between this side and that side, but very negligible. And I don't expect anything less than this from Tahara factory, where almost every Lexus is built, and it's perhaps the best factories out there. So quality is almost perfect here. What about between the front fender and the front door? The alignment is almost perfect, and the gap is about 4 millimeters as well. So really tight alignment, very flush design here, very well made. And then finally between the front door and the rear door, it's a little bit wider here, about 4.5 millimeters, which is pretty normal. And once again, alignment is perfect. The paint job looks really consistent. And finally, on the last door here, it's about 4 millimeter, maybe 4.1. So very good quality. Let's take a look on the Lexus side to see what the difference might be. So this one is built in the Yoshiwara factory, which is a very custom specialized factory. And the gap is almost the same, but a little bit wider on this one than the 4Runner, about 4.1 millimeter. And then it gets a little bit wider near the top, almost 4.5. So to be honest, if I was just comparing model to model and not keeping an eye on the brand, which is Toyota versus Lexus, I'm going to actually have to say that the 4Runner is slightly better in terms of the front hood to the front fender alignment, both in terms of gap and also in terms of the level of the surfaces. What about the front fender and the front door? It's about 4.1 millimeters, so almost the same as a 4Runner, but there is a little bit of a difference in alignment, more so than the 4Runner again, which is surprising. But maybe because this is an all-new model, sometimes it takes a few months to get everything in order and all the bugs out. Between the front door and the rear door, it's about same, 4.5, 4.6 millimeter, almost same as a 4Runner. And then once again, it's a little bit wider here between the rear door and the rear fender, 4.6, 4.7 millimeter, almost perfect flushness. So overall, if you look at the paint job between the two models, of course that's a magnetic gray, this is pearl white, so it's a little hard to compare. But I think the paint job is a little bit better in the Lexus. It has a little bit more gloss, a bit more shine, a bit more depth, and less orange peel than the 4Runner, although it's very good on this one too. This is a magnetic gray, so it's got a deeper depth color to it, but very consistent. It does have a bit more orange peel than I would like. Now let's measure the paint thickness to see if there's a difference in thickness of the paint between the Lexus LX 600 and the 4Runner. Okay, so now I have the paint thickness gauge, and I want to see whether there's a difference in thickness of the paint between the 4Runner and the LX 600. Thicker the paint, typically the better. It doesn't mean it's better quality, but obviously if the paint is thicker overall, then it's a little bit more durable. Now let's take a look. So this is the paint thickness gauge. Typically paint job is between 100 to 180 microns. That's pretty well standard. So on the 4Runner is 111 on the hood, 110 on the front fender, 105 on the front door. So pretty consistent. It's about 110 on average, which is what is typically happening with all Toyota products. Now let's take a look at the Lexus LX 600, which I suspect will have a thicker paint job. 179 micron, 184 in the front fender, 183. So it's quite a bit thicker, about 110 microns on the 4Runner, about 180 microns, so almost 70 microns, not quite double the thickness of the 4Runner paint, but almost 70% thicker on the Lexus LX 600 than the 4Runner. And I would suspect that is primarily due to either the thickness of the clear coat or there's additional paint, additional layer of paint on the LX 600, which doesn't surprise me because they're trying to make the paint very durable and to give that more of a depth and more of the gloss than the typical Toyota cars. So sure enough, there is quite a bit of difference in terms of paint thickness between a $65,000 car and a $140,000 car. So what is my conclusion comparing these two models? They're both built in Japan in two different factories, very different pricing, but they're both built in legendary factories. One is Tahara, one is Yoshiwara. Well, from what I can gather, in terms of panel gap, panel alignment, they're both very similar with slight edge on the 4Runner, but that might be primarily because this car has been built for many years now, and therefore it's being worked on over many years, and therefore the fit and finish of the panels are absolutely first class. Versus the LX600 is all new, so it might take a few more months, maybe even 6 months or longer, for all of the body panels to become perfect in terms of fit and alignment. And so most likely that's what we're seeing here is a slightly more deviation from a standard on the Lexus LX600 compared to the 4Runner. But when it comes to paint, clearly this thing is better than this one here because it has almost 70% more paint thickness and it has better gloss and less orange peel. So they have added either an extra layer of a paint or extra layer of clear coat on the Lexus LX 600, and you can see that in the paint thickness gauge because it's almost 180 microns, which is very, very thick paint. By the way, this one has mostly aluminum panels versus mostly steel here. So this gauge actually tells me also whether the panel I'm measuring is steel or aluminum. In the case of Lexus, it's mostly aluminum. So it's a very interesting comparison. In terms of the interior, of course, it's very different because this is very luxurious, very flagship looking versus outdated and kind of old design, old-fashioned design perhaps on the 4Runner. But they're both absolutely rattle-free, squeak-free, and they're both absolutely first class in terms of NVH, which is noise, vibration, and harshness. But of course, in terms of total comfort and quietness, the Lexus is much better than the 4Runner, which is kind of getting old in terms of overall design. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just a quick comparison in terms of manufacturing quality and fit and finish, in terms of the overall look and feel of the paint, as well as the panel fit. There's a lot more to come your way in terms of the 4Runner stuff and the Lexus LX 600 stuff. So please keep an eye on my channel. If you can subscribe, give me a thumbs up, make some comments, that'll be great. But until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.